Welcome to Court Explainer. We are doing special 25 editions on the Constitution because Raila Odinga and Kibaki died. The only now way to get to know the Constitution is through Court Helicopter Explainer. We are dealing with the executive powers of the president. Today, we are starting with Article 135. Do you know that any decision the president makes under Article 135, that decision shall be in writing and shall bear the seal and signature of the president? Every time the president makes a decision, that it must be in writing. There is the seal, which is housed at the office of the Attorney General. That seal must be stamped there, and that and the signature of the president must be there. Section 136. Elections of the president. The president shall be elected by registered voters in a national election conducted in accordance with the Constitution, as we said in Article 38, and we also talked about it under the IEBC. That the president shall be elected the same day there's a general election. 2. The general election is when the president will be elected together with the county government elections, MCAs, members of parliament, senators, women rep, and the president as contemplated in that year. When is the presidential election supposed to be conducted? This one in Article 136. Listen carefully. Don't be asking, when are you going to vote in 2027? It says, on the same day, being the second Tuesday in August in every 5th year. So, August, the second Tuesday of August, 2022. 2027, Tuesday, the second Tuesday, that is the date we'll be going to the election to elect the president after every 5 years. It is cast on stone. So after 2027, we'll have after 5 years, 2032, August, the second Tuesday. That will be when again we'll be going to the election. This is a constitutional provision, so nobody can call it. Who qualifies to be a president candidate? Article 37, 137, for you to be nominated as a presidential candidate, 1, you must be a citizen by birth. 2, 1 is qualified to stand for election as a member of parliament. You have the qualifications like that of a member of parliament. 3, for you to be a presidential candidate, you must be nominated by a political party, or you stand as an independent candidate. So don't worry, Kenyans. You can stand as a presidential candidate in 2027 through a political party or through an independent candidature. D, 1 must be nominated by not fewer than 2,000 voters from each of a majority of the counties. In your papers to be presented to the IEBC, you must get at least 2,000 voters registered from over 24 counties. So if your county is only in Nyamira, if your county is only in Bungoma, if you only have 2,000 voters from Makueni, you will not be declared to be a candidate. You must have 2,000 voters from at least 24 counties. So you must be endorsed with over 48,000 voters registered from at least those areas. 3, if you owe allegiance to a foreign state, you will not be allowed. You will not be allowed. B, if you are a public officer or if you are acting in any state or other public office, you must resign before you put your papers there. But a sitting president, a sitting deputy president, or a sitting member of parliament should not resign. So don't tell the president to resign because he's going to contest in 2027. Professor Kindiki will not resign, and any sitting member of parliament will not resign. But cabinet ministers, any other person who is going for an election must resign before that. Then in Article 138, the procedure is that only one candidate for the president is nominated. If one candidate only is nominated and there is no competitor, he'll be declared a winner as duly nominated. If there are two or more, elections shall be conducted and the election shall follow. And who is going to be declared the winner in a presidential election? Article 138(4) says a candidate shall be declared elected as president if the candidate receives more than half of all the votes cast in that election. That is 50 plus 1. Of all the votes cast, if there are 10 million people who voted, the presidential candidate to be declared the winner must have 5 million plus 1 vote. More than a half of the votes cast. Not the votes registered. This is where Kenyans need to understand. Registered voters might be 20 million. But those who cast their votes in 2027 are 10 million. The winner must have 5 million plus 1 or plus 2. Make sure that is 50 plus 1. Number 2, the winner must have at least 25% of the votes cast in each of more than half of the counties. If you have 50 plus 1, number 2, you must also get at least in 24 counties more than 25%. Remember, we told you the president represents the whole country. So if your votes will come only from Mount Kenya region, only the counties in Mount Kenya region, or only the counties from Western region, or only the counties from Rift Valley, you will never be declared a president. You must get at least 25% in more than 24 counties. That is why you see a presidential candidate must be having an appeal the whole country, not only where that person was born or where that person has his bedroom, as Raila Odinga used to call Kibera his bedroom. Your bedroom is not enough to give you the presidential seat if you do not get 25% in more than 24 counties. Then number 5, suppose nobody garners that. What happens? In Article 138(5) says, if no candidate is elected, a fresh election shall be held within 30 days after the previous election. And in that fresh election, the only candidate shall be. So, within 30 days, a new presidential election shall be conducted. Within 30 days. If nobody is going to be declared the winner. What are the conditions for that fresh election within 30 days? A, the candidate shall be A, the candidate or the candidate who received the greatest number of votes. Only 2 will be allowed to go to what is called a rerun. Not everybody, the first 2. will be allowed to go for the run. B, the candidate or the candidates who received the second greatest number of votes. So number 1 and number 2. 6 says, if more than one candidate receives the greatest number of votes, it shall not apply, and only one candidate in the fresh election shall be those contemplated in clause 5. In 7, the candidates who receive the most votes in the fresh election shall be declared as elected as the president. The runoff, whoever now gets the threshold of 50 plus 1 does not arise. In a runoff, if the runoff, only 10,000 people appear for the runoff to vote, the president who is there is declared the winner. Let me put it. In 2017, the Supreme Court declared the election of President William Ruto, President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto nullified, and a fresh election was ordered to be conducted. Only Raila Odinga and President Uhuru were to be in the ballot. Raila Odinga withdrew from the race. Only President Uhuru Kenyatta appeared in the fresh election. He was not required by law to have 50 plus 1%. A simple win. That is how President Uhuru Kenyatta came the second, regained his second term as the President of the Republic of Kenya. That is pursuant to Article 138(6). 8. A presidential election shall be cancelled and a new election held if. When can a presidential election be cancelled? If A, no person has been nominated as a candidate before the expiry of the period set for the delivery of nominations. The IBC will give dates. If nobody presents papers, another presidential nomination will be done. B, a candidate for election as the president or a deputy president dies on or before the scheduled election dates. Do you know if somebody has been elected, has been nominated, has put in papers, and that person has been duly nominated, his name is in the ballot? If one of them dies, the presidential election will not be held. Do you know why? All the presidential candidates are given state security. If one dies, the presidential election will not be held. It will be cancelled. A fresh one must be conducted within 30 days. So, it is upon the state to ensure nobody dies. And that is why any presidential candidate who has been duly nominated by IEBC is given state security. Wajakoya was given state security. People asking, how do you give Wajakoya a state security? If Wajakoya is killed, if Wajakoya died, the election of 2022 could have been cancelled and a new election conducted. C, a candidate who would have been entitled to be declared elected as president dies before being declared elected as president. So the president election has been done. IBC is compiling the results. The one who is supposed to be declared the winner dies before he has been declared. Number 2 will never be declared the president. Forget about it. I know most guys will kill somebody hoping that now that I'm number 2, I've killed the one who is number 1. You will not be declared as number 2. The election will be cancelled. The announcement will be cancelled. a new election shall be conducted. That is even for the MCAs, even for the governors. You cannot take number 2 to be the president to elect or governor elect. A new election shall be conducted, and that is it. Part 9 says, a new presidential election, if that is cancelled, under clause 8, by virtue of death, it shall be held within 60 days, the date set for the previous presidential election. Remember, the 30 days is for a rerun. A runoff must be conducted within 30 days. If it is because of death, it is 60 days. Quadricopter wants you to understand this. A rerun where elections were done, nobody won by 50 plus 1%, nor did not get the 25% of votes in 24 counties, is a rerun within 30 days. If it is death, it is within 60 days for that election to be done. Number 10, after the elections have been done, either a rerun, either a new election because of death, Article 10 says, Article 138, Subarticle 10 says, within 7 days after the presidential election, the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission shall A. declare the results of the election. The IEBC has 7 days after to declare the results after the election. So don't push the new commissioners to announce the results immediately. It is within 7 days. So the IEBC can declare the results within a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, but 7 days and above, the law does not allow. Do you remember when Chebukati had to go to Bomas on the 7th day to declare the results? Because the Constitution provides that a presidential election result must be announced and declared within 7 days. Failure to that will cause what is called a constitutional crisis that has never been imagined by the Constitution of Kenya. It goes on to say, the IBC chair will deliver a written notification of the results to the Chief Justice and the incumbent president. 2 people are given the results. 1, the Chief Justice, and the president who is incumbent. So if William Ruto will be in the ballot in 2027, if he loses, he will be the first person to be given the results and the Chief Justice. If he wins, he will still be given the first information in writing from the IBC chair and the Chief Justice. That is mandatory. Those, you and me, the Constitution forget us. I think we should make a referendum so that we are also given. But the Constitution provides that only the Chief Justice and the incumbent president. Then Article 139. What will happen if there is death before assuming office? The president-elect has been announced. The Chief Justice has been given in writing. The incumbent president has been told, but he dies before he assumes office. The law is very sharp. Kenyans were bright. In the event of a president-elect dying before he takes the oath of office. Article 139 says, if a president-elect dies after being declared elected as a president, but before assuming office, the deputy president-elect shall be sworn in as acting president on the date on which the president-elect would otherwise have been sworn in. The deputy president-elect, whoever will be in 2027, the deputy president-elect is declared a deputy president-elect the same day the president-elect is declared. He will be sworn in, not as a president, mark my words. He will be sworn in as an acting president on the same date, at the same venue, as if his boss could have been sworn in on that date and the same venue. B, a fresh election to the office of the president shall be held within 60 days after the death of the president-elect. A new election for the president will be conducted within 60 days. The person who was his deputy will be acting as the president. He can present himself as a candidate for the presidential election. The election must be done within 60 days. Wakenya munaelewa sasa. That is the constitution. It doesn't change. 2, if the deputy president-elect dies before assuming office, the office of the deputy president shall be declared vacant on the assumption of office of the person declared elected as the president. So if the deputy president dies, but the president-elect is alive, the office of the deputy president-elect shall be declared vacant. And what does the law say? If both the persons declared elected as the president and the deputy president die before assuming office. Imagine this. Have you ever imagined that scenario? The president-elect and the deputy president-elect die before they go to Kasarani to take the oath of office. What will happen? People are now getting worried. The Constitution provides a solution. What does the Constitution provide that solution for? In Article 139, sub-article 3, it says, the Speaker of the National Assembly shall act as president from the date on which the president-elect would otherwise have been sworn in. The Speaker of the National Assembly takes over as an acting president, not the Speaker of the Senate. Here we are talking of the president-elect has died, the deputy president-elect has died before they assume office. The Speaker of the National Assembly is sworn in as an acting president. And a fresh presidential election shall be conducted within 60 days after the second death. The Speaker will be acting president for 60 days. A new presidential election shall be conducted for the president and the deputy president within 60 days. So this now tells you the hierarchy of power. President number 1, deputy president number 2, third in command is the Speaker of the National Assembly. Nowhere will this army or the chief of staff be sworn in. Kenya is a democratic country. The hierarchy is there. Nowhere will that happen in this country. Section 140 talks about if anybody wants to challenge the elections of the presidential elect. How do you deal with the question of a petition to challenge the declaration of the presidential elect? Article 140 says, A person may file a petition in the Supreme Court to challenge the election of the president-elect within 7 days after the date of the declaration of the results. You have 7 days to file a petition to the Supreme Court after the results have been declared. 2, within 14 days after the filing of a petition, the Supreme Court shall hear and determine the petition, and the decision shall be final. Within 14 days, Supreme Court must hear the petition, give a determination, and the decision of the Supreme Court is final. You cannot challenge it anywhere. Whether you go to any other court, it is final. 3, if the Supreme Court determines the election of the president-elect to be invalid, a fresh election shall be held within 60 days after the determination. This is what happened in 2017. The Supreme Court, led by Justice Maraga, nullified the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. A new election was conducted within 60 days. Who will be in charge of the country at this time? The incumbent president is still in office until a new election is conducted. In 2017, Uhuru still remains the incumbent president, but a lame president until a new election was conducted. Let us now deal the question. The Supreme Court has resolved this matter. What about the assumption of office of the president? How is it done? How does the president-elect take office? Article 41, we dealt with it. In Court Helicopter News, we dealt with this question when we compared what happened in Tanzania when President Samia Suluhu was declared the winner and was sworn at night the same day in a military barrack. It's very different from Kenya. For the sake of those who didn't get this episode, follow this. What happens? 41A, the swearing of the president-elect shall be in a public place. Number 1, it must be in a public place. 2, before the Chief Justice, or in the absence of the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice. It must be in a public place, and a public place means a public place, not a military installation, not State House. State House is not a public place. There must be the Chief Justice. If the Chief Justice is not there, the Deputy Chief Justice. Number 2, the president-elect shall be sworn in on the first Tuesday. On the first Tuesday following the 14th day after the date of the declaration of the results of the presidential election, if there is no petition filed. If there is no petition filed within 7 days, then before 14 days end, the Tuesday in a public place before the Chief Justice or a Deputy Chief Justice, the president-elect shall take office. B, the 7th day following the date on which the court renders a decision. If the decision has been challenged at the Supreme Court, after 7 days immediately after the declaration of the Supreme Court, the president-elect shall take office on a Tuesday. On a Tuesday. It goes on to say, 3, the president-elect assumes office by taking and subscribing to the oath of affirmation of allegiance and the oath of affirmation for the execution of the functions of the office as prescribed in the 3rd schedule. The president takes 2 oaths. The first oath is the 4th oath, and the oath or affirmation of allegiance. Number 2, the oath of execution of the office of the President of the Republic of Kenya. That is how the President shall take office. It must be at Uhuru Park. It must be either at Uhuru Park or Kasarani Stadium on a Tuesday, and the law provides that that day must be a national holiday. It must be a national holiday. 2, the President must be sworn in between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The President cannot be sworn at midnight. The President can be sworn only between 10 and 2 p.m. in a public place where members of the public are allowed to attend. The term of office. Article 142 provides that the President shall hold office for a term beginning on the date of which the President was sworn in and ending when the person next elected takes office. So, a person shall not hold office as President for more than 2 terms. The Kenyan Constitution provides for a 1-term President of 5 years and another one renewable after elections. The President can only serve 2 terms. He cannot serve more than 2 terms. Not in Uganda, where the President can serve 10 terms, or in Rwanda. In Kenya, here, the maximum is 2 terms. Just like in America, the maximum is 2 terms. Continuous. Remember, if William Ruto loses 2027, he will contest again in 2032. The terms must be 2. Uhuru Kenyatta cannot contest because he has served 2 terms. Mark those words very clear. How do you protect? Can you sue the President? Can you take the President to court? Article 143 provides that no criminal proceedings shall be instituted against the President while performing the functions of the office during his tenure of office. You cannot start criminal proceedings against the President. Whether he commits a criminal act, the law says time will stop running, but the moment he leaves office, a former president can be arrested and be charged for criminal acts he did when he was in office. President Uhuru Kenyatta can now be arrested and be charged for any criminal act he did. President William Ruto, as the president, you cannot institute criminal proceedings against him so long as he is the head of state and government in this country. Civil proceedings, they can also not be instituted in any court against the president or the person performing. You cannot sue the president in any civil proceedings. So you will wait. If the president has taken fuel from your petrol station, you cannot sue him. You will wait until he leaves office. This provides for the immunity of the president under the article shall not extend to a crime for which the president may be prosecuted under any treaty to which Kenya is party and which prohibits such immunity. Here is now the question. Kenyans were asking, how was President Uhuru Kenyatta taken to the ICC? The president is only immune to Kenyan criminal justice system. If the president of the Republic of Kenya breaks a crime that is known as international crime, the ICC and other international courts will arrest the president and take him there. Remember, in the ICC, very many presidents have been taken there. Remember, during the Maandamano, Kenyans petitioned the ICC to start investigations against the sitting President of the Republic of Kenya. Now you understand, and I repeat it for the benefit of everybody, that in Article 143(4), it says, the immunity of the President under this article shall not extend to a crime for which the President may be prosecuted under any treaty to which Kenya is party and which prohibits such immunity. International law. Under Article 2, Sub-Article 6, we dealt with, in this court helicopter, the second explainer, we said, any treaty or any convention Kenya has ratified forms part and parcel of the Kenyan law. That one we did. So, any treaty, if the President breaks any international law, the President will be arrested and he'll be taken to face the international law, but he'll not be prosecuted here. How do we remove the President? The Gen Zs tried to remove the President from office. Which means are available to remove a President from office? Removal of the President and the Deputy President. Article 144. A member of the National Assembly, supported by at least a quarter of all the members, moves a motion for the investigation of the President's physical or mental capacity to perform functions of office. A member of Parliament, supported by a quarter of the members sitting in Parliament, shall move a motion that the President should be investigated for being incapable of doing his job. 2. If the motion is supported by a majority of all the members of the National Assembly, the Speaker shall inform the Chief Justice of that resolution within 2 days. The President shall continue to perform the functions on the office pending the outcome of the proceedings required by this article. Within 7 days, the Chief Justice, after receiving this, will appoint a tribunal of 3 persons qualified to practice medicine, 1 advocate of the High Court of Kenya, 1 person nominated by the President. If the Chief Justice is unable to appoint a tribunal, the Chief Justice will appoint a tribunal. The Speaker will receive within 14 days the report of the tribunal, and if the report indicates that the President is incapable of performing the functions of the office of the National Assembly, shall vote whether to ratify the report. If the majority of members of National Assembly vote in favor, the President shall cease to hold office. This is when the President is unwell, he's sick, he's senile, he has gone paranoid on medical grounds. There is a procedure under Article 144 where a President can be removed on grounds of medical grounds. That is the first ground. You can remove a President based on a medical ground. The second ground of removing the President is by impeachment. And that is the last part on the part of the President. In impeachment, a member of the National Assembly also, with at least a third of all the members, moves a motion. The grounds provided for impeachment of the President are 1A, gross violation of the provisions of the Constitution; B, serious reasons for believing that the President has committed a crime under national or international law; and C, for gross misconduct. Only 3 grounds form the basis for impeaching a President or a Deputy President. 2, A motion must be supported by at least 2/3 of all the members of the National Assembly. If 2/3 pass the motion, the Speaker of the National Assembly forwards the resolution to the Senate Speaker. The Senate Speaker will also appoint a special committee comprising of 11 of its members to investigate the matter. The matter will be brought within Senate within 10 days, and the Senate will vote, and if the Senate finds by 2/3 majority of the Senate, the President will lose his seat. He can only challenge that in the court of law. That is the procedure also for removal of the vice of the deputy president. Remember, with this one, we don't need to report to deal with it so much because we have seen it being done in the questions of the impeachment of the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. That marks the end of the executive analysis. Wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year as you proceed on this court explainer on the executive of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much.